Hello everyone, what a lovely day it is today, isn't it? I've got our paddling pool out because we've had a bit of a break last week and we thought we'd get the paddling pool. Even though my children are quite big, it's been lovely to cool down in it. But while it's here, I thought we could have a look and see if things float or sink. I've got a few things down here that I've already found and I wonder if you can guess what they are. What about this twig? Do you think this is going to float or sink? What do you reckon? Yes, you were right. I hope you were right. It did float. What about this plastic plate? Put that in the middle there. Oh, yes, that's a good one. Oh, what about the jam jar? Do you think that will float? What do you reckon? It's made of glass. You watch it. Oh, no. Oh, it sort of has floated. Did that surprise you? There's just a little bit of water in it at the bottom, but it's still floating. What about the cupcake case? Yay, that's good. I wonder how long it will stay there until the water makes it all soggy. What about a spoon? Is that going to float or sink? Oh, it's gone right down to the bottom. I'll have to fish that one out later. A pebble? Are we ready? Oh, I wonder if it'll float on the plate. Should we see if it'll float on the plate first? What? Oh, it made the plate sink. Oh, but the plate recovered. And finally, what about a feather? What do you think a feather will do? Oh, yeah, that floated beautifully, didn't it? Because feathers are waterproof as well. Today's story is about something that floats. I'm going to pick these things out of the pool here now, and then we're going to go inside and I'm going to tell you the story that we've got today. Right, just drying my arm off now after fishing the things that had sunk. I wonder if you could have a go at things that float and sink. I expect you've got some water. Maybe do it in the bath next time you're there. Right, today's story. I wonder if you can remember where last week's story finished off. We finished off, didn't we, in a place called Egypt. And Joseph had brought all his family over to Egypt and they lived there. Joseph's family grew up and they had children and they had children and they had children. And we pick up the story a long time after Joseph had died and all the family had died. But the family had got really, really big with all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And there was a new king, a new Pharaoh. And he didn't know anything about Joseph and anything about all the good things that God had for Joseph. And he looked around and he saw that all of Joseph's family was huge. It was enormous. And they were strong and they were healthy. And he didn't like that. And he thought to himself, right, I'm going to make them work really hard. I'm going to make them make bricks. I'm going to make them work for their living. And so they had to work really, really hard. And I wonder if you can see it in our Bible. They were making bricks that were building things. They had to get the straw and mush it up with the sand and the mud and wait for it to dry and collect the water. And they were exhausted. But still, they were strong. So Pharaoh said, right, I've really, really had enough now. And he was very, very grumpy. And he said, I want to have no more baby boys. It's the baby boys who grow up to be strong. So let's get rid of all the baby boys and throw them in the river. Now, there was another family who were part of Joseph's family, part of the Hebrews. And this lady here, she's called Jochebed. What a super duper name. And she and her husband had a little boy called Aaron, a little girl called Miriam, and then they had another baby. Look, he's so little, so little. Shh, we're going to have to keep him quiet, said Mummy. We can't let the soldiers know that we've had a baby boy. What are we going to do? So for 3 months, they kept him really quiet. Every time he started to cry, one of them would cuddle him, or Mummy would feed him, or they'd do something. But after about 3 months, they realised he was getting too big. And they knew that this baby was very, very special. They knew he needed to be kept safe. So Mummy wove a basket and they put the baby in the basket. And Mummy took the basket down to the river, but instead of throwing the baby in the river, she very carefully put the basket right near some reeds so that he would be safe and he would keep safe. And just to make sure, Sister Miriam hid in the trees to watch him all the time. Now, not long after that, the princess, the Pharaoh's own daughter, came down to swim in the water, and she came with her servant. And they were talking, and then suddenly they heard a little cry. Ah, ah. And the prince said, "Who's that?" And so the servant went and fetched the baby back. Oh, the princess said, "Look, it's a tiny Hebrew baby. Oh, he must be so needing his mummy, and he must be so, we must keep him safe. We really must keep him safe." With that, Miriam came out and said, "Oh, please, please, I know someone who will be able to look after that baby until he's big enough to live with you in the palace." And she ran home to get the baby's own mummy. And the baby was called Moses. And Moses means taken out of the water. And Moses went back home to live with Mummy and his brother and sister and daddy until he was big enough to go back to the palace. But do you know, you see, God needed Moses to be in that palace because he had another plan. I love the fact that God has plans and he sees the end before the beginning. You see, this was not a nice Pharaoh, and God needed to make sure that his people were safe. And he had a plan for baby Moses. Baby Moses needed to do some growing up first. And next week we'll find out what happens when Moses grows up to be an adult. But while we're thinking about that story, I've got a lovely craft for you to do. And I've printed it all out at the bottom of this post so you can print out the baby Moses and the basket. Now, to save time, because you don't want to see me colouring in or anything, we've coloured in baby Moses and we've coloured in the basket. And the last bit to go is just the bit here. But we've left it so that you can see you don't need to colour that bit in because you're going to cut that out. And so if you very carefully get Mummy to help if you need to, although I'm sure lots of you will be able to cut it out all on your own because you're getting so big now. Can't believe that some of you have turned 4 since we've not been meeting at Noah's Ark. Now, there we are. There's my basket. Now, if you've got a piece of blue paper, that would be fabulous, but it doesn't have to be blue. I've got blue because I wanted to do it quickly and I don't want you to have to wait to see me colouring in a piece of paper. But you could just have an ordinary piece of white paper and colour it in blue. Now I want you to stick it about like that and then very carefully put Moses in his basket. Shh, oops, just tucks in like that. Isn't that lovely? Oh, he's happy and asleep. Now we need to hide him. Now I've just cut out some bits of green paper. You might have some bits that have got green. This is just a packet from Kitchen Towel. And so I've cut some of those bits out. But if you've got some green paper, just little strips of green paper to make those reeds. And then it's very, very simple. Just a bit of glue along the bottom. And then just stick all the green things so that he's completely hidden and covered up. I've got some bits of paper here from a magazine as well. So they're all growing from the bottom. And then when you see baby Moses all covered up, you can remember the story. Oops, there we are. There he is, all covered up. You can do more than me. You can do a few later, but there he is, all covered up, all hidden and floating safely. And I can't wait to tell you the next bit of the story next week when we find out when Moses grows up, what happens. But let's just pray together before we go. God, we thank you for Moses. We thank you that you had a plan for him, even when he was only a tiny baby. You had a really special job for him to do. And we thank you that you have special jobs for each of us to do. It doesn't matter how old we are, because you love us and you have a special purpose for each one of us. Thank you. Amen. See you next week. Bye.